Most people think the city ends at the pavement. They walk over grates and manhole covers, never realizing that the city extends just as far downwards as it does upwards. There are layers to a metropolis like rings in a rotting tree. I'm an urban explorer. I don't steal, I document. I find the places the world has forgotten. But tonight, standing before the rusted iron door of Sector 4, deep beneath the subway tunnels of London, I wished I had stayed home. The map I bought from a nervous construction worker claimed this was the maintenance entrance to the Aperture Institute. If you check the public records, the institute never existed. But if you check the medical licenses revoked in 1974, you find the name Dr. Julian Vane. He believed that sleep wasn't a biological necessity, but a biological cage. He believed that if we could stop the brain from resetting, we could see reality as it truly was. I cut the padlock. It snapped with a sound like a gunshot that echoed down the damp tunnel. I pushed the door open. The air that rushed out didn't smell stale. It smelled ozone-heavy, like the air right before a thunderstorm. And beneath that, a faint, sweet smell, like rotting flowers. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam cut through the dust motes, revealing a long, tiled corridor. It looked like a hospital, but the proportions were wrong. The ceiling was too low, maybe 6 feet high. I had to stoop slightly to walk. The doors on either side were narrow, barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through. It was designed to be uncomfortable. I walked. The only sound was the wet slap of my boots on the linoleum and the distant rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water. I checked my camera. Recording. Entering the main hall, I whispered for the audio log. Architecture is oppressive. No windows, no ventilation shafts visible. I tried the first door on my left. Locked. The second door. Locked. The third door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open with the toe of my boot. Inside, there was a single metal chair bolted to the floor in the center of the room. Facing the chair, covering the entire wall, was a mirror. But it wasn't a normal mirror. It was angled downwards. So if you sat in the chair, you wouldn't see your face. You would only see your own lap in your hands. On the floor near the chair lay a clipboard. The paper was yellowed and brittle. I picked it up, the dust coating my gloves. It was a sleep log. Patient 044. Time asleep 0 hours. Time awake 214 hours. Notes. Subject is no longer speaking. Subject is vibrating. I dropped the clipboard. Vibrating. I turned to leave the room, but my flashlight beam caught something on the mirror. Writing, in grease pencil. It was backward, written by someone sitting in the chair. It read, "Don't wake them up." I moved deeper into the facility. The further I went, the less it looked like a hospital, and the more it looked like a maze. The corridors began to curve gently to the left, a constant, dizzying spiral. I found the observation deck. It was a glass-walled room overlooking a massive circular chamber below. I wiped the grime off the glass to look down. The chamber below was filled with beds, hundreds of them. They were arranged in concentric circles like a target. And in the center of the target was a massive machine, a tangle of copper wires, vacuum tubes, and thick black cables that snaked out to every single bed. The beds were empty, mostly. I saw bundles of rags on some of them, old blankets. I zoomed in with my camera lens. The blankets were lumpy, shaped like people. "They just left everything," I muttered. "They just closed the doors and left." I turned my attention to the control desk in the observation room. It was covered in reel-to-reel tape decks. I found a tape labeled Session 40, The Breach. I shouldn't have played it, but curiosity is a disease, and I had a severe case. I threaded the tape and pressed play. A burst of static, then a voice. Calm, British, clinical, Dr. Vane. Day 12 of the collective lucid state. The subjects are now sharing a single consciousness. They are no longer dreaming individually. They have constructed a room that exists only in their collective alpha waves. A second voice on the tape, younger, panicked. "Doctor, the brain activity, it's not spiking, it's flatlining, but they're still moving. Let them work, Roberts. They are building a bridge." "But sir, look at subject 15. Look at his jaw." On the tape, there was a wet, snapping sound, like a branch breaking, then screaming, not from the patient, from the assistant. "He's awake, but his eyes... Oh God, where are his eyes?" The tape ended with a sharp click. I stood there in the silence, the echo of that scream fading in my mind. I looked back down through the glass into the main chamber. One of the lumps on the beds had moved. I was sure of it. The gray blanket on a bed in the third ring. It had been draped over the pillow. Now it was on the floor, and the bed was empty. I felt a cold draft on the back of my neck. I spun around, shining my light at the door to the observation deck. It was closed. I had left it open. I walked over to it, my hands shaking as I reached for the handle. I turned it, locked. From the outside, and then from the hallway I had just come from, I heard it. Soft, wet footsteps. Slap, drag, slap, drag. Panic is a cold bucket of water. Clarity followed by shaking. I couldn't go back. The only other way out of the observation deck was a maintenance ladder in the corner, leading down into the dark pit of the main chamber. I climbed down. The metal rungs were icy cold. When my boots hit the concrete floor of the main chamber, the silence was heavy. I was now standing among the beds. Up close, the smell was overpowering. Dust, copper, and something sharp, formaldehyde. I kept my flashlight pointed low, trying not to sweep the room. I didn't want to see what was in the shadows. I just needed to find the exit on the far side. I wove through the beds. Bed 102, empty, straps bitten through. Bed 103, a stain on the mattress that looked like a shadow burned into the fabric. I heard a rustle to my right. I froze. I turned off my light. In the darkness, the room wasn't black. It was faintly glowing. The copper machine in the center was emitting a dull, throbbing violet light. It was still running. 50 years later, on some backup power, it was still humming. And in that violet light, I saw them. Standing between the rows of beds were figures. They wore tattered hospital gowns that hung off emaciated frames. Their skin was gray, pulled tight over bone. They stood perfectly still, their arms hanging limp. But their heads were wrapped in bandages. Thick, dirty gauze covered their eyes and ears. They were the sleepwalkers. They were swaying slightly like seaweed in a current. I realized with horror that they were all facing the center machine. Listening to it, I took a step. My boot crunched on a piece of broken glass. The swaying stopped. 50 heads turned in unison towards me. They didn't scream. They didn't run. They hissed. It was the sound of air escaping a punctured lung. Shh. And then, one of them took a step toward me, then another. They moved with a jerky, unnatural rhythm, like puppets on tangled strings. I clicked my light back on, blindingly bright, and ran. I sprinted toward the far wall, dodging beds, jumping over cables. I could hear them behind me. Slap, drag, hundreds of feet. I hit the double doors on the far side and slammed my shoulder into the crash bar. It gave way. I tumbled into a hallway, scrambling to my feet and jamming a metal chair under the door handles, just as the first body slammed against the wood. Thud, thud, thud. They weren't trying to open it. They were just throwing themselves at it. Blindly, endlessly. I turned to run down the hallway, but I stopped. The hallway didn't look right. The floor was carpeted now. Thick red 1970s shag carpet. The walls were covered in velvet wallpaper, and the corridor stretched out infinitely, twisting upside down like a corkscrew. I wasn't in the basement anymore. I was inside the machine's influence. I was in their dream. I walked, but walking felt like swimming through syrup. The air was thick. Gravity felt optional. Sometimes I was walking on the floor, sometimes I was walking on the wall. My flashlight beam didn't hit surfaces. It just continued into the void. "This isn't real," I said aloud. My voice didn't echo. It was absorbed by the velvet walls. I inhaled a hallucinogen. The air in the facility is toxic. "It's not toxic, Miles," a voice said. I spun around. Standing in the middle of the distorted hallway was a man. He was wearing a pristine white lab coat. He looked perfectly healthy, except for one thing. He had no eyelids. They had been surgically removed. His unblinking eyes were dry, red, and frantic. "Dr. Vane?" I asked. My voice sounded small. "We didn't want to sleep," Vane said, smiling. His teeth were too white. We wanted to build. Do you know how much time you waste sleeping, Miles? 30 years of your life. Just darkness. We reclaimed that time. We built a city in the synapse. He gestured to the hallway. The walls began to breathe. The velvet patterns shifted, turning into thousands of blinking eyes. But something went wrong, I said. The patients. They're monsters. No, Vane corrected gently. They are the workers. They are maintaining the structure. I am the architect. And you are the new material. Vane stepped closer. He didn't walk. He glided, his feet not touching the carpet. We are running out of memory, Miles. The dream is getting too big for the hard drives. We need more RAM. We need more wetware. He reached out a hand. His fingers were impossibly long, with too many knuckles. Join the sleep. It's beautiful. You never have to be tired again. I backed away. No, wake up. I need to wake up. You can't wake up, Vane laughed. It sounded like glass breaking. You aren't asleep, Miles. You walked in here. You are flesh and blood in a world of thought. That makes you delicious. The hallway behind Vane tore open. Not a door, but a tear in reality. Through the tear, I saw the vacuum of space. I saw giant geometric shapes floating in a void. And I saw something massive, something made of teeth and starlight, looking through the tear at me. I turned and ran. I ran blindly through the shifting corridors. Doors opened into brick walls. Stairs led into ceilings. I could hear Vane laughing behind me, the sound coming from everywhere at once. Don't you want to see what's beyond the REM cycle, Miles? I saw a door ahead. It looked different. It looked old. Rusted iron. The entrance. I lunged for it. I grabbed the handle. It was hot, searing my glove. I pulled. The door groaned. Behind me, the red carpet turned into liquid. I was sinking. The floor was trying to eat me. I kicked out, my boots connecting with something soft. Vane's face rising from the floor like dough. I threw myself through the iron door and slammed it shut. I fumbled for the padlock I had cut earlier, jamming the shackle through the loops even though it was broken. I was back in the damp, tiled tunnel. The smell of ozone was gone. Just stale water. I didn't stop. I ran up the incline, my lungs burning, my legs screaming. I reached the surface grate. I pushed it up. Rain. Cold, London rain. I scrambled out onto the pavement, collapsing into a puddle. The streetlights were orange and hazy. I heard a car horn. A taxi drove by, splashing me. I lay there for a long time, just breathing. I was out. I was safe. I checked my pockets. I still had my camera. I stood up shaking. I needed to get home. I needed a shower. I needed to sleep for a week. No, not sleep. I would never sleep again. I hailed a cab. The driver didn't say anything, just nodded when I gave my address. The ride home was a blur. I watched the city lights streak past the window. When I got to my apartment, I locked the door. I deadbolted it. I pushed the sofa in front of it. I went into the bathroom and turned on the tap. I splashed cold water on my face. I looked up at the mirror. My reflection looked back, pale, exhausted, terrified. But then my reflection blinked. I didn't. I leaned closer to the glass. My reflection smiled. It wasn't my smile. It was Vane's smile. And then my reflection raised a hand and pointed to the corner of the bathroom behind me. I slowly turned around. There was no bathtub, no toilet, just a door, a rusted iron door. And it was slightly ajar. From the darkness behind the door, I heard the sound. Slap, drag, slap, drag. I looked back at the mirror. The reflection mouthed two words, still, dreaming. Then the light bulb popped, and in the darkness I felt a hand with too many knuckles touch my shoulder.